What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the opinionated hippie, continuing my deep dive into Weird Al Yankovic's studio catalog, my personal dedication to Dr. Demento, the king of novelty music, who recently announced he was retiring. This is album number 11. Discovering these for the first time, the studio albums, though I know all the hits. Doing them in order, ranking them among, I'll rank this among the other 10 I've already done. Not going to play any music, just going to rant and rave. And in the instance of this one, his 11th, Poodle Hat, released in 2003, I have a lot of compliments. This was a good album. And we have yet another Zappa connection in that this is the album that contains Weird Al's Zappa tribute. Not a parody of a specific song, but a parody of pretty much everything Frank Zappa does in about 8 minutes. Pretty fascinating song. Only heard it a couple times. Interested to deep dive and try to see if I can come up with a list of every reference that I can pick up. But more on that later because it's the last song on the album. This was a really good album. Almost everything works. Some of his lyrical jokes are kind of running thin by this point, and he kind of has this template that he does, takes a concept, then just goes to the extreme, and it's kind of predictable. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I do think the song choices on this are songs I like, so that helps. Opens up with Couch Potato, which is based on Eminem's Lose Yourself. It's about sitting around watching TV all day. And everybody tolerates Raymond, my favorite line from this. It just works. Works as an opener, works as an Eminem sort of homage, parody. But yeah, really good. Next is Hardware Store, which I don't think is a particular artist or genre. I think it's an original vibe, but it's a list song. It has this really awesome list of every little minor thing you could get at a hardware store. It's about being excited about the opening of an upcoming hardware store. It's a really upbeat, fastly sung. Reminds me of a lot of different artists who do lists. So maybe that's the whole thing, was to get anybody from Billy Joel to REM to any other random person who drops a list in a song. But it kind of works. It's kind of fun. Next up is Trash Day, which is Tonelli's Hot in Here, but it's rotten here because it's the day before Trash Day and everything's rotten. It kind of works. There's something rotten in here. The music is good. The groove is good. I like these hip hop covers. I think Weird Al does interesting things with them. Next is Party at the Leper Colony, which is this Bo Diddley 50s rocker. There's saxophone solos, bunch of leper jokes. Given the props to Weird Al. He is very thorough when he tackles a subject. And if you can think of any sort of leper-related pun or joke, it is going to be in this song. The polka song is next. Angry White Boy Polka is what it's called. This is the most fascinating list of artists yet in the polka. If you're not familiar, the polka is usually 10 to 15 artists, other people's songs, and he puts them in a polka medley. This list of artists is fascinating. Opens up with Last Resort by Papa Roach. Chop Suey, System of a Down. Get Free, The Vines. Hate to Say I Told You So, The Hives. Just, who remembers The Vines and The Hives? Great bands. Fell in Love with a Girl, White Stripes. Last Night, The Strokes. This is probably the highlight of this. In fact, it made me want to go listen to The Strokes. Down with the Sickness, Disturbed, Renegade of Funk, the Rage version, My Way, Limp Bizkit, Outside by Stain, Bawadadaba, Kid Rock, Youth of the Nation, POD, and The Real Slim Shady to close out. That is quite a list of artists. Very, very early 2000s right there. Next, we got Wanna Be Your Lover, which is this 6.5 minute, Beck-inspired white boy funk, a Midnight Vultures type thing, a little bit of a more upbeat Deborah. And every element is there, the horns, the backing vocals, that sort of Beck delivery. And it kind of doesn't work at first, but then he is so committed to it. And every time the horns come in or every time a little new wrinkle comes in, by the time we're done with the 6.5 minutes, I'm like, that actually was kind of good. And it kind of works really well just sitting right there in the middle of the album. So yeah, I Want to Be Your Lover. Won me over by the end of its 6 minutes. Next, a complicated song is what it's called. Take off on Avril Lavigne's Complicated. And at first I did not like it because, I loved it. Then I was like, oh, is that this is going to be about? And then it turned out it wasn't. So it starts off like complicated. I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. And it's about like he goes over to somebody's house and there was going to be a party, but nobody showed up and there's all this extra pizza. So he gets the pizza and then he goes home and eats it. And of course it messes with his stomach. So then the verse comes and it's like, why do you have to make me so constipated? I was like, oh man, that was going so well. Now we got like 2.5 more minutes of constipated jokes. This is going to be rough. But no. The second verse, entirely different scenario. Now he's with a girl and they're making out and he spots a tattoo on her leg and the tattoo is her family crest, which happens to be his family crest. So then the verse is, why did we have to be so related? Because he's hooking up with his cousin. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. And then the third one, like telegraphs its intent from the beginning. He's on a roller coaster. The guy tells him to sit down. He wants to stand up, and he ends up so decapitated. Interesting little song. Won me over, lost me, completely won me back. So it was a roller coaster ride, which fits because the last part of the song. But yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Next is a Ben Folds 5 piano type rocker. Why does this always happen to me? Kind of didn't like this one. It's kind of too long. The story is like these really horrible things happen in the world and they cause the narrator a minor inconvenience. Why does this stuff always happen to me? One of those type of things. Didn't do much for me. Not a big Ben Folds 5 fan to begin with, so maybe that's why. Ode to a Superhero. This was without a doubt the biggest surprise. I did not know this existed. It is Piano Man. Almost exactly. Like, had you played me the beginning of this song and the beginning of Piano Man, I might not be able to tell the difference. Then when he starts singing, it's about Spider-Man the movie. And it is good. It is a great description of that first Tobey Maguire movie. Absolutely fantastic. Next, we have a song called Bob, which is kind of a subterranean homesick blues type Bob Dylan number. All of the lyrics, every single lyric, it's a set of palindromes the entire way. Amazing. It almost, the way he has the palindrome sequence, because obviously he must have found them all and then he put them in some sort of quote unquote logical sequence, makes it feel almost like a Highway 61 revisited type, kind of upbeat nonsense type, surrealistic stream of conscious type rocker, but also with like a subterranean homesick type folky jangly rock vibe. Really good. Then we get eBay with that opening guitar intro. I want it that way with those awesome drum beats. I got it on eBay. Okay, song about stupid stuff you can buy on eBay. Then we get the Frank Zappa song to close out the album. It's called Genius in France because the lyrics are about how you can be stupid in a bunch of different ways, but when you go to France, you're a genius, a la Jerry Lewis in his film career. Genius choice of subject matter because Frank has a song called In France. Frank is a genius in France, but also the subject matter with Jerry Lewis. I don't know. It works on a lot of levels. But musically, there's really only two really specific references that I think there's more, but like it opens up with like an I'm the Slime studio version guitar solo where it's like, then we drop into the guitar, we drop into the da-dun, but we don't drop into that. But we have that opening guitar solo, and then the end is a very kind of cosmic debris type ending where Frank is saying something over Weird Al saying something. But then throughout the entire thing, we're getting like every little snippet of what Frank does, like the random sort of musical like intrusions into songs, the weird vocal stuff, the proggy stuff. The two albums that, or at least the two eras that Weird Al seems to be drawing from the most as far as Zappa music is definitely like an Overnight Sensation apostrophe era stuff. Just that kind of sound, that kind of the use of the background vocals. Little Montana sleeps in there. Some Zombie Wolf sleeps in there. That I'm the Slime opening. Feels like there's a little Stinkfoot, a little Cosmic Debris. So we get a lot of those two albums. And then we also just generally feels a lot like You Are What You Is type stuff, where maybe like the I'm a Beautiful Guy, that kind of stuff on like what, side 2 of that album, where like we're going along and then some weird little thing happens and we go back to it and some weird little thing and deviations and a lot of really good like vocal stuff. But it goes on for 8.5 minutes. And there's kind of one motif that repeats throughout, but then we have all these other little excursions. There's a nice little guitar solo break. The guitar solo sound is pretty much an Overnight Sensation style tone. We got some early Mother sort of vocal tricks that go on in there, like a we're only in it for the money type stuff. We get a Frogs, we get a Great Googly Moogly, little Gregory Peccary type stuff. Yeah, we get a lot of Frank in here, a lot of what he does, not specific songs, but a lot of those sort of tricks or motifs or, tropes that he uses in his music. But yeah, it's a pretty fascinating song. But yeah, I love this album from start to finish. Maybe a couple songs that didn't hit as hard as the others, but if I had to rank this among the other 10 that I've already done, yeah, it is number 1. I just thought, and it's not just that there's a Frank parody, that helps, but there's a Bob Dylan parody. There's an awesome Piano Man parody about Spider-Man. Just really, really, really well done, Weird Al. And he's not just drawing from like contemporary hits. Zappa obviously didn't have a hit. Bob Dylan, I doubt he had a hit at this point, early 2000, that was like, we got to do a Bob Dylan parody. Piano Man is always a hit, so I guess you can always do Piano Man. But yeah, number 1 at 11. It is a really good album. What would I recommend if you go to listen to this? Go listen to the whole thing from start to finish. I mean, you may like what I don't like and all that, but I think this is his strongest album so far. So yeah. All right. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, share, comment. Do all those things. And another Weird Al Yankovic album probably tomorrow. All right. Peace. Talk to you later.